Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this is, of course, the Talamanca Review. It's 10:58 p.m. and it's Thursday, the 12th of February. The first thing I want to talk about is just some comments I got on YouTube. Um, I'm not sure if I can read them all here. Um, okay, so this is from a listener. I think it's a relatively new well, maybe a relatively new listener, but somebody who's not new to my presence on on the internet. And I know that because they reference an interview I did with Brian Rue 5 or 6 years ago. So you can see these. I mean, they're on YouTube. So, and I don't really feel bad doing this, and the reason is that the comments are public. So if you're going to make a comment in public, and in this case, multiple comments, one after the other, on the same video, and they're critical in an ad hominem way, meaning something of a personal attack on me, well, I feel I'm going to address them. This is not a big podcast. I mean, with all the distribution points, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Substack, and whatever else I'm forgetting, I maybe have maybe 1,500 people watching this, which is not a lot of people compared to the subscriber base on some of the podcasts out there. But I think a lot of those podcasts are contrived at this point. That the podcasting has become, in many ways, an extension of the Mockingbird system or the control system. I've spoken about that before on the Talamanca Review. Now, we've had a really good run here. I've had very, very few trolls. There was that one Tavistock lady. She disappeared after I figured out who she was and sent her an email to her work at Tavistock, thanking her for her comment. Um, but I don't often get trolls. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that this gentleman is a troll per se, but let's just do this. So, I have a lot more knowledge than others around me, too. I guess referencing me, but I'm not sure. In that we are alike. Yes, it's definitely about me. But my knowledge doesn't make me be better than them. My abstinence from sin does. Think on that. Okay. And then right after that, we have another one. There's actually three in a row, three long comments. I don't know why you would do three in a row. You can put all of them in one, but you couldn't control your emotions on that Brian Rue podcast when it was just a harmless newbie question he asked. You like to smoke cigars. You come across as the type who, and unfortunately, I can't finish it, but Max, this is referring to Max Egan. Max never wanted to build anything because he probably smokes pot. I don't really want to build anything either. I don't smoke pot and don't do any kind of recreational substance. Okay. Number one, the fact that you made three comments is in a row is OCD. It's some form of obsessive compulsive disorder, okay? It's really not normal. And I'm not saying you're abnormal. I'm saying that something bothered you, okay? Now, given that this is still a relatively small podcast, I would suggest you reach out to me and we record a show. And I won't edit anything and I'll put it up, okay? And let's get to the bottom of who Brent Birchwhistle is and what your beef is, okay? But don't pollute the community with your nonsense, okay? If you have something to say, either stop watching the podcast and fuck off, or be a man and sit down and have a recorded discussion with me, and we can all learn about whatever state of perfection you think you've achieved, okay? And here's one final thought. If you have so much to say, why don't you do a podcast? Why don't you write a book? Okay? All right, enough about that. And I'm sorry I had to put you folks through that. Um whatever. Okay, so um things you saw the pictures today from the drop ceiling, right? So man, I was way too hard on my brother-in-law. When I got the labor price for the drop ceiling, I went, "Oh, not this shit again, man. I could get it done cheaper in Canada." But I didn't realize they were doing the whole thing, including the outside balcony with drop lights. So I feel really bad now. I got caught in my own, I don't know, penny pinching ways. Um, the Scot is second only to the Jew for frugality, and even then, I'm not sure that's a true statement. But I just believe in fairness and commerce, right? Especially when it's family. So, but I'm absolutely thrilled with the way the house is coming along. It's going to look beautiful when it's got all new furnishings in there and everything, and it's painted. I mean, it's nice now. It's white. We're just going to do a whitewash. And when I do a whitewash, this is an old Scottish trick, by the way. So you mix up some lime, and you just you get it till it's white and watery. You don't want it thick like a putty. Then you strain it, because a lot of the sort of sand or silt will go down to the bottom. You strain it into a new 5-gallon bucket, and then you add pig fat, like lard, actually, and you stir it all in. The lard has to be in liquid form, and you stir it all in. And what that does is it creates a really beautiful white paint that's waterproof. So we're going to do it in the inside of the bathrooms, the showers and stuff like that, and probably the outside of the house. And I don't know if you folks know this, but lime is a mold inhibitor. And mold, if you live in the rainforest or any kind of wet place, and this is a wet place, mold is a huge problem. Okay. I don't have any mold on the earth bag houses. On a couple of the Butsons I do, or what do you call them? You have to do these abutments when you're building a long wall. Anyways, and the water comes off the ceiling and hits directly on them, and they can get a bit of mold on them. They got to be whitewashed. Whitewashing is the old painting. You know how they used to do it on farms and stuff. The picket fences would be painted with a lime paint, and it's so cheap, right? You can paint a whole house for like $5, and and then make, well, $5. Yeah, probably $5. Yeah, because you don't need much lime to create the paint. And then you got the paint brushes. You get the extra wide ones, and you just slop it all on there, man. And it looks beautiful and shiny. It's really nice. And so the house is really coming along. I'm really happy with it. I'm really glad I did it. And it's going to make a very nice place for the tourism and for people to come and stay and all kinds of stuff, right? So it's just a lot going on up here now. I mean, I have so much between the new house and this earthbag house or the earthbag buildings. If you come in couples, I can probably sleep, for like 14 people comfortably. Like, comfortably, everybody has their own room if you're in couples. And then if everybody has their own room, well, there's about 8 bedrooms. Um, and then, I mean, if you just put sleeper sofas in the living room, you know, we're expecting some of the groups that go into the jungle to be 10 or 12 people, but they'll probably be young people, and they'll have no problem kind of doing more of a slumber party thing. Yeah, my son and I, my wife, we're pretty excited up here. Um, and it's nice. It's nice to have like an investment in this life, you know? I feel that way anyways. I mean, I don't believe this give it all up, go to an ashram horse shit like some people. I just think that's a cowardly way to live. I mean, the end goal may be good. Um, but I think you should try your best to live a whole life. And I get that philosophy from the spiritual teachings that have influenced me the most, which are the Sikh teachings, the Sant Mat teachings, the 20th century concept of the householder yogi. Like even the masters about 120 years ago started predicting that yoga would no longer be an isolationist practice. It would blend itself into a normal human life. And the Sufis as well. There's no profession called being a Sufi sheikh. If you're a Sufi sheikh and you're leading a durga in prayer, it's a volunteer position. You're expected to make a living, and you don't get paid by the Muslim faith. I'm not sure. I don't think I'm not sure. I don't think their imams get paid either. Hang on a second. That's an excellent question. You know, excellent question. In the Muslim faith, is the imam a salaried position like a pastor at a church or a Catholic priest? Are their living expenses paid for? Or is the position, in a sense, volunteer? This is very interesting. By the way, this has always been one of my litmus tests about the validity of a religion. So, in the Muslim faith, the position of an imam, the person who leads prayers and manages the mosque, can be either a salaried professional role or a volunteer position, depending entirely on the size, location, and financial capacity of the local community. Um, yeah, okay. So it can be either. Um, uh, that is, by the way, a litmus test for the validity of a spiritual system. Whether the leader of that spiritual system or the leaders of that spiritual system who form a conclave of some sort, that's a Catholic word, but a conclave of some sort. And if they're all making their living off the religion and the donations from the people, for me, that's a red flag. Red flag. And the reason is that I believe that spirituality should follow the laws of the Creator. And the Creator doesn't do what it does for us conditionally, it does it unconditionally. So that's just my thinking on it. I mean, you're free to disagree. It's not like I came down from a mountain with this inscribed on a tablet by God. It's just how I feel about it, right? And so there you go. Now, um, as I was mulling this podcast over in my head today, um, I I'm not sure I want to do this, but I kind of want to do it, right? It's like eating ice cream. It's just, you shouldn't, but you do, right? It's like eating a chocolate bar. You shouldn't, but you do. So usually I don't even know what I'm going to title a podcast till I get near the end of doing it. But this one I know from the beginning, and I'm going to call it Shameful Pride. And the German word for that is Schadenfreude. Um, and it just means when you take pride in something that you shouldn't take pride in. Okay. Now, the subtitle for tonight's podcast is I fucking told you so, which helps explain Schadenfreude a little bit better. So let's take a look at some of the things that I've talked about on the Talamanca review since I started in, I don't know, I think it was like January of 2024. So it's been a couple years I've been doing the Talamanca review. I'm going to do a Talamanca review essays for the Zeitgeist part 2, by the way. Oh, by the way, Okay, this is important. And you'll have to forgive me, okay? But this book writing process, this book curating process is it's constantly evolving. Like I'm getting better and better and better at this. And it's how you do it. And to the best of my knowledge, nobody else is doing this, okay? Now I got to say, and I'm not just trying to sell books here. The Essential Alan, not the Essential, yeah, no, well, I'll get to that one in a minute. Um, I think I might again, I keep flip-flopping on this, but I might take down the Essential Mark Passio, seek to get in contact with him, and see if we can come to some kind of an arrangement, where we split royalties, or he gets 60, I get 40, or whatever. And the reason I say that is what I have found is these books work best when you write them in the first person. So you write them from the perspective of the podcaster. So what I do now is the first thing I do is I do a voice analysis. And sometimes you can have it varies. So for the Essential Terrence McKenna turned out brilliantly. It might be the best book so far. Like, and believe me, I'm not saying this just to sell books. Okay, I'm not. It's really good. It captures his voice and the structure of his message perfectly. It's long. They're getting longer too. The books are just getting longer. It's 350 pages. It's told in the first person. I had probably 100 hours of transcripts to pull from, which is a good pool. The biggest pool I've had so far was Alan Watt, and that was about 1,800 transcripts, and I think each one represented an hour or 2 hours of talking. So it was almost like too much information, and the problem becomes focusing the book. So what I do now is the first thing I do is I ask the AI to do what I call a voice report. And a voice report is where the large language model goes through the transcripts and captures the idiosyncrasies of the way the person speaks. And a voice report alone can be 10 pages. And then once you have the voice report, then you do an outline of the book. And it's not as simple as sitting in front of AI and go, first of all, you have to be using the AI in a development environment, okay? Because if you're just using it through a development environment is where you code, where developers code. So it's a tool like Microsoft Word, except for instead of writing documents, it's for writing code. It's a much richer and much deeper and much more complicated system of writing. Um, Most advanced technical writers will write in a coding development environment because most technical writing now is done in a markdown language. And that's kind of like a coding language itself, which gets compiled into a document, just like code gets compiled into an application. And so the number one thing is you have to be doing the book in an IDE. You can't be doing it through a web browser. And first of all, the web browser won't even accept 1,800 transcripts. So the moment you go to the IDE, you're in a completely new relationship with artificial intelligence. Okay, you're using it the way coders use it to write code, to help check for errors, um, and all of these, and to improve code. And when you're working in an IDE, the directory you have open that has all your files, in this case, you would begin with all the transcripts that you want to form the book from. The AI can go and read them all. The AI is much more powerful in an IDE because it's using the API. It's connecting directly to the application programmer interface of the artificial intelligence. And it creates a much more powerful experience. So you create a voice template and then you create a book outline. But even creating the book outline, the instructions you give the AI have to be quite lengthy. You have to say um, that you want to capture the chronology of what they're saying. You want the book to represent in a proper sequence the gradation of understanding they bring to the topic, and very many things. And very often, to get a good outline, it can take 3 or 4 attempts, and it can take a day just to get a good outline. And now I'm not complaining. I mean, if I were to write this stuff from hand, like begin with the transcripts, edit them, and change them into my language and sum them up, a book like The Essential Terence McKenna would take me probably 6 months of daily work to do. So AI has sped things up tremendously. So you get the voice template, you get the book outline. And then you ask the AI, using the transcripts as the reference point, to create the book and use the voice template so that the AI knows it's supposed to be written in the first person. So it's like Terence McKenna wrote the book, and it captures his voice perfectly. And everything that is said in the book is something he said. Now, the AI will clean it up from spoken language to a much more presentable and literary written language, but it is the person. It is the person. So the greatest litmus test so far is the essential Terence McKenna. Now the second best book now is the essential Alan Watt, the Canadian, the Scottish guy, not the guy who spoke about Zen. The first time I did that book, it only came out to about 220 pages, and it was written in the third person. So Watt notes that our society, blah, 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 blah. And when I finished the McKenna book, I said, holy cow, man, it's so much better in the first person. And so I redid Terence McKenna. Now, I know I've sold 7 or 8 copies of that book. If you bought it, reach out to me and I will get you another paperback sent to you, the new one sent to you at your home free of charge. I can buy it at the print cost, and then I'll pay the shipping, which will be about $10 or whatever. And you can keep the original kind of as, I don't know, an experimental first draft or something, a collector's item. But the Essential Alan Watt is really good now as well. It's also over 300 pages, okay? And it's in his voice, just like Terence McKenna. And it is so good, you know. I sit down on my tablets and I read these things. I go, this is really good. I could sit and read this for 3 hours. And it captures their work perfectly. I now have the most extensive library on alternative theories on society and functioning of society. I don't want to say conspiracy theory because it's got so many negative connotations, right? But alternative visions of society and its purpose. I've got this definitive library now nobody else has. Like I've got all the greats, Mae Brussell, Terence McKenna, um, Jordan Maxwell, Bill Cooper, Alan Watt. It just goes on and on and on. It's Blackbird Talmud, which is also quite good. But that one, it's good, but I mean, it's all about the Jewish influence, okay? And it's done in a non-hateful way. It's just very, very factual. This is look, at the end of the day, everybody's trying to influence society. The Catholics are trying to do it. The Lutherans are trying to do it. It's just the Jews are really good at everything they do because they're an exceptional people. So they're exceptionally effective. They're a little bit sneakier than most, but there's a lot of people out there like Michael Yon, the ex-Green Beret, great Substack, by the way. He cites a lot of Jewish NGOs that are responsible for piping all those people up across the border. But I've seen other reports where, like, the Lutheran Church was instrumental in picking up those children at the border, wherever they go. So it's a lot of these religions are corrupt, okay? And for reasons I don't quite understand, a lot of people focus on the Jews a lot of the time. And it's just not the case. I mean, there's so many I actually, and you can think me cynical if you want, but I think most institutional religions are almost completely corrupt now, all demonically or satanically corrupt at their core. Doesn't mean the congregants are, it's just at the core. They're just absolutely corrupt. So a lot of good books out there now, and don't forget about my original work. I mean, I don't think there's a better book out there than The Light of Darkness for explaining what we're going through now, with the Epstein dumps. And it's very dark. Like if you think you've seen, if you think the Epstein stuff is dark, wait till you get into The Light of Darkness. You know, I think I was the first one to put down on paper that Mother Teresa was a child trafficker. And so, and it was shocking. Like people don't know that stuff, right? It was very shocking. And but now it's all coming out. I think hands down the best book from the trilogy, my favorite now is the crowd favorite is Stardust. My favorite is The Devil in Us because it's my story. But The Devil in Us has a tremendous power behind it. You'll have dreams about it. You can very easily have multidimensional experiences reading that book, and it has to do with the energy and the vibration that's in the book. Now, some people, I mean, you know, they might, oh, McDonald is channeling demons through his books. He's in the Illuminati. He's one of them. Yeah, they stationed me here in the Earthbag house, and they secretly pay for my Starlink. You know, and again, demons are not what we're being told they are. Most of the malfeasance on the planet now is negative extraterrestrials. And I'm tired of mincing my words about this and trying to appease the Christians. You know, fuck them, you know, and their bullying bullshit. It's as bothersome as the Jews and their incessant need to control society and Gentiles. I mean, Christians are just as bad in some ways. It's a little bit different, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing. Anyways, so tonight's podcast is I fucking told you so. And Schadenfreude, shameful pride. So let's look. Why do you think I would go out of my way to do a podcast like the Catamite Parade? And I did the Catamite Parade about a year and a half ago. And I explained like how perverted all these people were. And you know, a year and a half ago, you could have seen that and you go, "Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if that's true." Right? Um, and I mean, you can just based on the little we've seen, if you've seen 20 or 30 of those emails on any social media platform, the Epstein dump emails or any other data from that dump, you can get a pretty good picture of the kinds of characters involved, the world leaders and stuff like that. And then you start to understand things like Justin Trudeau. And when I do a podcast explaining how he lived a kilometer away, working at a private school in the BC interior. Now, the BC interior is like Montana. And it's like Montana on steroids, okay? It's all mountains and small towns. And Justin Trudeau lived in a small town. This is the small town where he had the illicit affair with the 11-year-old girl, 12-year-old girl. She might have even been 10 when he started it. And he had to leave the private school he was working at. A non disclosure agreement was signed, and allegedly the girl's family got $2 million. But nobody can say for sure, and I'm not saying for sure. This is just rumor, okay? I don't want to get libeled. I don't want to libel anybody, but if you do, I believe it. Yeah, 100% I believe it. From my personal perspective, I know it. I don't have any evidence, but I'm not a fucking lawyer. I don't need evidence. I fucking know it. Of course he was fucking that 11-year-old girl. Do you have any doubts now after the shit that's come out about Epstein? You have, and believe me when I tell you it's going on in every country. It's going on in every country in various versions and forms, okay? When I was working on The Devil in Us, Creeper took me on all these. He used to show me basically the book or aspects, things I needed to see to have the confidence to put on paper what I eventually put on paper. And he took me to all kinds of different places. And in one instance, um, he took me to a castle in Europe, and there was one of these big eyes wide shut orgy parties going on, and that the orgy was the PG version of it. Then we opened a door, and there were catacombs under the castle, and that's where the really dark shit was going on. Yeah, it was a dream, but it was astral travel in my sleep, and then you get woken up to make sure you remember it. And this is what Creeper kept doing all through the 6 months I was writing that book. I'd be waking up every other night. Here's something more for you. Here's something more for you. It was like, working with this demon on the book was like having your own AI assistant. It's just constantly working. They don't get tired, right? Nothing on the other side really gets tired. So, and I want to say something here. I'm not judging these people like Justin Trudeau. I mean, that poor fucking bastard never had a chance in life to be a normal human being, to know what real love is. He was groomed from birth to be an asset in this subculture. And believe me when I tell you that these people sacrifice their own children, if not literally and literally by killing babies, then figuratively by, in a sense, taking away their free will through various mind control and trauma based programs and molding them into what this Luciferian society needs. So, Justin Trudeau, as a living soul coming into incarnation, he never had a chance. Do I hate him? No, I don't hate him. What I'm trying to do on the Talamanca review is just explain to you what's going on and give you a remedy. And the remedy is digest it with love. Yes, you by all means feel sick for a day, a week, a month, 3 months, 6 months, however long it takes you to digest this stuff. They cannibalize babies, they rape and torture 1 month old babies. Okay? It's hard to digest, but digest it. Okay? Get to the other side of it. And the only way you can get your head around this stuff is to follow a spiritual process that gives you a larger definition of what you are. And so that you can let go of the body and, oh, they destroyed him. No, they destroyed the body of that baby. The soul is fine. Don't worry about it, okay? Not that I'm minimizing it. And this is a very important thing. And this goes into all the things I've said on the Talamanca review about judgment and avoiding judgment. Uh, It's hard. I mean, there's times I fantasize about cracking their skulls in with an iron dumbbell bar. I get angry and I just fucking give me 15 minutes with Jeffrey Epstein, a blackjack, and sit him in a chair with his hands tied behind his back, and I'll make him scream for his mummy. I have those fantasies too. I get overcome by it sometimes. It's human, okay? It's human. But processing it, getting objectivity, and releasing the negativity is very important, okay? Very, very important. So the Catamite parade, I pointed out, you've got Macron, you've got Barack Obama, you've got these fucking freaks like Levine. I think she was Obama or Biden made it an admiral or something, and it's just a hideous fucking creature. I'm pretty sure Chuck Schumer's wife is a man. It's Keir Starmer. Um, there are photographs of like an 8, 9 year old Keir Starmer with Jimmy Savile. Okay. So the cult has taken over the world. Okay. Because the cult has money. And I'm not even sure technically if I can call it a cult. This may be the most dominant religion on our planet, in all honesty, and certainly the most practiced. Okay. So that's why, a year and a half ago, I give you a podcast like the Catamite Parade. Now, as all of this data begins to dump, you can put it into its proper place. You can file it in your head. You can get your mind around this stuff. Oh, yeah, Bruce was talking about this stuff. Okay? But this shit's been going on. Like Alan Watt really opened my eyes, the Canadian. I mean, it is amazing what that guy has to say. And Give that book a read too. Um, it is amazing. They've been planning this. I mean, as far back as Plato. You could even say Plato was, if not a Luciferian, he was initiated into this elite way of governing groups of people. Okay. And then it just goes from there. So Plato is, when is Plato? When did Plato live? Was it 400 BC? I don't know. We'll ask. We'll ask Gemini. Gemini will know. When did Plato live? What a weird name, Plato. Yeah, 500. 428, 427 BCE was born, died 348 or 347 BCE. Holy shit. He lived about 80 years. Yeah, he lived to be about 80 years old, which was quite an impressive run for the 4th century BCE. Um, so these people have been around forever. And one of the things you got to do when you take this stuff in is number one, try to learn from it. If you get all reactive and angry, oh my God, there's a class of human beings that want to wipe us out and reseed the human race with their own genetics and all of this kind of shit, you're just going to get really angry. And you can't accomplish anything when you're really angry. And I would remind you of the principal message of the Christ, which is forgiveness. Now, that doesn't mean forget. That doesn't mean don't do anything about it. It has to be stopped. There's no doubt about it. It has to be stopped. Um, but don't get angry, right? I mean, they've been at this for millennia. I mean, this goes back into unrecorded history or mythological history, like the Sumerians and stuff like that. Okay, and I say mythological. I mean, we know they actually existed. We have the archaeology and everything, but I don't think anyone has really perfectly translated their whatever their language is. I forget what the word is for it, cubiforms, or it's not hieroglyphics, but I don't think anybody really gets the Sumerians right. But not what's his name there, the Iranian dude, uh, Zachariah Sitchin. I think he was Iranian or Iraqi or one or the other. Um, but yeah, don't let yourself get too angry about it. And I'll tell you, I mean, these motherfuckers have taught me a lot. Anytime you think you're disciplined, just look at them. They've been able to execute and carry out a plan that is at least 2,000 years old now. And they've been able to pass it from generation to generation and get steps or stages in this plan executed. How many other people do you know who've been able to do that? Okay. And this is, by the way, one of the reasons that it is ensconced in, not definitively representative of, but ensconced in, I think. Let me look up that word because that's a kind of a freaky word right there, ensconced. I think I'm using it right, but you know how I am with language, right, folks? What does the word ensconce mean? Can you hear the rain? I can hear it right through my earplugs. Man, it has been 3 weeks now of heavy rain, kind of chilly. To ensconce yourself means to settle into a place that is comfortable, safe, or secret. It's that feeling of tucking yourself away. Yeah, I'm ensconced. So they've been ensconced within religion. And one of the reasons these secret society plans and these Luciferian plans cohabitate doesn't mean that is what the religion is, but it can cohabitate in a religion, and it makes sense because religions are the only institutions that have survived. The oldest institutions in the world are religious. Okay, I mean there may be secret societies, but I don't know. So the Catholic Church is about 2,000 years old. Um, the Jewish rabbinical clergy, whether you call them the Sadducees, the Pharisees, the Sanhedrin, which is the judicial rabbinical circle, the judges, if you will. I mean, those are some of the oldest institutions on the planet. So, of course, these generational plans are going to commingle with religions, okay? But I think the religions are just like the plan is a skinwalker and the religion is the skin. But it doesn't mean that the religion is not functioning. You can still have in those religions people achieving illumination, grace of God, and all these sorts of things. But if what I'm saying is true, if what Alan Watt is saying is true, if what Bill Cooper is saying is true, if what Mae Brussell is saying is true, well, Mae Brussell is mainly 20th century, right? JFK, stuff like that, very focused work. Um, but if all of these people are saying the same thing, um, it means that for this institution to exist and these plans to exist, they have to creep through history disguised. And the best disguise for them is religions. Okay, so that's why there's so much commingling of religion. A lot of people, they look at the religions and they think, oh, they're evil, they're evil. We're so binary in our thinking, human beings: good, evil, black, white, up, down, male, female, night, day, big, small. And it's how we've been entrained to think, which is why prayer and meditation is really important, because it helps you to think in a unified way or perceive in a unified way. Um, and perception precedes thought. So, but it isn't that binary. It doesn't mean that the religions are evil. Okay? I mean, you just look at the Catholic Church. You've got some pretty. I think Pope Francis was an evil motherfucker. I think this Pope Leo is an evil motherfucker. Okay? I think John Paul II was so-so, but not a great guy. Um, it's a very corrupt. But at the same time, you can get people like Cardinal Vigano. You can get people like Padre Pio, who definitely was communicating with divine forces. So that they all commingle. The good, the good and the bad are usually right beside each other. It's a very curious thing, you know, because the bad, it likes to take cover in the good. I mean, look at when we first started hearing about the pedophiles. Where were we finding them? Boys and Girls Club? Now, before you realize that that guy was a pedophile and that's why he wanted to be around children, what would you think before you knew that? What a great guy. Look what he does, man, with his spare time. He spends time with the kids, he gives back to the community. He donates money so they can go on camping trips. He carpools. He bought 4 tents for the Boy Scout troop, right? And then when you hear, oh, he's a pedophile, and then the normal human thinking is, oh, the Boy Scouts are a bunch of pedophiles. No, they're not, but it attracts pedophiles. Are you really surprised there's so many homosexuals in the Catholic Church? It's a bunch of men living with men. Ah, I mean, how much of a no-brainer is that? So the sex stuff, I've gone really pretty heavily into that, okay? In podcasts like the Catamite Parade, and I've gone into a lot of detail. What sodomy does when it's perpetrated upon a young boy, how it robs them of certain energy. It's an energy harvesting for the rapist, for the pedophile. It's more occult than it is sexual. Um, all of these sorts of things, right? And now you can see it clearly. And I think we're getting something approximating a full disclosure on this now. Some of the shit that's coming out now, unbelievable. Cloning, harvesting of young girls' eggs, um, to either create a human life in outside of a womb or to harvest the egg of certain valuable components that can aid in longevity. Another thing that's coming out is these people are fascinated with longevity. They want to live forever. and they'll do anything, right? If one of them has to kill 100 people to live 5 more years, they'll do it and harvest the body parts, the blood, the adrenochrome, the stem cells. It's the ultimate form of selfishness. Or you could look at it another way and say it's the ultimate form of predatory survival, right? Because nature does have a survival mandate built into it. Biologically, we have a survival mandate built into us. When somebody sacrifices their life for a higher good, like a soldier or a police officer, certain spiritual, the Christ, certain other spiritual people, that's the higher self overriding the biology and saying, I give this life to the world. I sacrifice myself for the greater good. These people, they're the exact opposite. Okay. Now, how we get rid of them short of a flood, like Noah level flood, I don't know. I mean, they're everywhere now. They're embedded in every fucking institution. They're running the world. And not just at the Macron, the Trudeau, the Trump level, the Biden level. I mean, even in the big corporate, have you noticed how many Jewish catamites there are in artificial intelligence? They're fucking all of them. OpenAI, Palantir, Peter Thiel. Okay, I don't think Thiel is a catamite. I think he's a pederast. I think he likes raping young men, young boys and men. But the OpenAI guy is certainly a catamite. He's the female, I think. I think the Palantir guy is the female. And you start to understand that sex, then you start to deconstruct it and you start to ask yourself, what allowed us to even get to this point, right? You got to go back to your grandparents or your great grandparents when you might have had sex with two or three women your whole life if you're a man, and two of them were women you met when you were in the Navy, and you had a short affair, and then you met your wife and you settled into a lifelong monogamy. And they started to whittle away at this, didn't they? And I think the debate about sexual liberation, um, sexual therapy, and incorporating a healthier sexuality into your life. And I mean, let's be honest, this has been a Jewish program in Western society. It's always a Jew. Every time you see a famous sex therapist, like the ones that did the radio shows and everything, they're always Jewish. Okay, so this is a Jewish thing. And it's never really been a Christian thing. It's certainly not a Muslim thing, although the Muslims have their own kink as well, right? Like polygamy. Um, you got the boy fucking in Afghanistan and Pakistan, which is pretty vile. But generally, Islam is a very clean living religion that values monogamy. But it was absolutely critical for their plan to take over the world in James Bond style, in a supervillain style, Dr. Evil style. They had to destroy the family because human beings are very strong in family. Even though you fight with your wife, you fight with your husband, you fight with your kids, you're better off in a family. That is the natural defense unit of the human being. And so that defense formation, that is the building block of society, had to be destroyed. And so they started working at it. They started with Hugh Hefner. That's in the 50s. I think 54 or 55 is the first Playboy magazine. And it's very soft porn. You're basically looking at breasts and clean skin. And then you get up in, what is it, around 1970? I think I talk about this in The Light of Darkness, Linda Lovelace and making Deep Throat in 1972. And if you go back and you read up on the topic, if you can find articles or academic articles or essays on pornography and human sexuality, you can even see it in Paul Thomas Anderson's Boogie Nights with Burt Reynolds and Mark Wahlberg. They thought these sex films were art. This is beautiful. Human sexuality is beautiful. Okay? The only time I've ever seen two human beings naked, um, in the act of physical intimacy or the prelude to physical intimacy was a black and white film that was John Lennon and Yoko Ono. They allowed it to be filmed. And I mean, you watch it for 15 seconds and you turn it off, you go, okay, that's private. I mean, they're hugging, they're kissing, stroking each other's hair, looking in each other's eyes. It's not pornography. And when two people are making love, you don't want to watch. You don't want to watch. You just instinctively know, okay, that's private. And then you get into the 90s and then you get into the threesomes, the gangbangs and come right up to 2026. Holy shit, man. It's like every kid on the planet with a cell phone is is meeting Jeffrey Epstein now just by watching this pornography. And it has completely destroyed our ability to have meaningful families. It's everywhere now. It's here in Costa Rica, you know. I married into a family that was together. I mean, my father-in-law, he was a Latin man. He had women on the side. Nobody he loved, but he had women on the side. But he always took care of his family, stayed with his wife and took care of his wife and genuinely loved his wife, my mother-in-law. They had 11 kids. Um, the 11 kids have done fairly well. Rosemary was divorced, but that was the only man she was with her whole life. And he had a second family on the side. He was a truck driver. He had a second family about 100 kilometers down the road. Two kids. And when she found out, she said, I can't digest this. I'm leaving. And she left. And then she met me and we got married. Now, the young people in their 20s, late 20s, early 30s now, I don't know of a single successful well, one of my nieces, she's got 5 kids too. And yeah, but they're all getting divorced. And so this defense unit is being broken up. You know where it's not being broken up? India, China. Who's putting the most number of people into the best schools for the best programs that are the most competitive to get into? The engineering, the robotics, the computer science, Chinese and Indians. Okay? The family unit is stronger. The discipline of the father, the love of the mother, seems to me to be the way we're supposed to raise children. Now, there may be some of you listening to me now, you might find that offensive. Maybe you got divorced when your kids were young and you raised your children as a single mother. All the power to you. That must have been hard, but that is not as good as a mother and father. I'm sorry. Same thing with the father. When it's the man, we kind of understand it, right? You look at a man. Let's say he's a widower. His wife died, and he's got 3 kids. Every time we look at a person like that, we go, oh, we have sympathy. I hope he finds another wife. That's what people think. They may not say it out loud, but we see a single woman. It's, you go, girl, all the power to you. Why? Why that dichotomy? Okay. And um, because they're playing off of this third force, this Luciferian force is playing off our nature. It understands us at the animal and psychological level and the unconscious level better than we understand ourselves. And this is how they shape society. Alan Watt explains it perfectly. Bill Cooper explains it well. You know, and they've been doing this for decades now. And if we don't turn this around, I think we're going to turn it around. I see hope in my son's generation. Okay. I think there's a possibility we're going to turn this around, but I don't know for sure. You know, very hard to say. Holy shit, this podcast went by in the blink of an eye. Um, so my shameful pride, my I fucking told you so, my Schadenfreude is everything I've been saying for the last 6 years since Stardust Ranch, 7 years almost now, has proven to be completely true. You can trust me. I'm telling you the truth, okay? The best thing you could do for yourself to get through these times is learn how to meditate. I think meditation is a powerful tool. It's agnostic to theology. So you can grow your consciousness, bring more love and centeredness into yourself without believing something. The way we've been conditioned mentally makes believing things much more difficult now because we've become an evidence-based society. And meditation, if done correctly and diligently, is an evidence-based growth process. But the only difference is it's not evidence you can share with the world. It's not like figuring out penicillin and reproducing penicillin. Once that's figured, you can share it, the process, how to do it, the steps, the sequence, anybody can do it, right? Same thing with nuclear weapons. That's why they've spread all over the world. It's an objective, sequential methodology. Spirituality, no. The proof takes place inside of ourselves. But two people who've proved the same things to themselves, like, for example, ghosts are real. Okay? I don't believe ghosts are real. I know they're real. I've already told you my ghost story. When I meet somebody else who's had a ghost story, we share our stories and go, yeah, that's pretty cool. We're sharing a science at that point that cannot be a science to people who have not also had their own definitive evidence-based ghost experience. You see how it works? And that's how the inner life works. But it can become very, very scientific at certain points, like the Tibetans and their history and everything they've written down and everything they've learned. It can become very scientific. So at some point, we have to make this turn back to an inwardly directed human race, a spiritual human race, seeking experience through consciousness with our Creator, not experience through material experimentation, like trying to find the God particle with CERN or splitting the atom and all this bullshit that these fucking psychopaths have been doing. Anyways, I'm Bruce McDonald, and this has been the Talamanca Review.